Entertainment icon Sean Diddy Combs is a multi-millionaire and now a player in an incredible courtroom drama after an indictment was unsealed by the FBI last September 2024. He is charged with a total of 113 serious offenses that include sex trafficking and racketeering and many more, and running the supposed shadowy empire, a string of deals committed to coercing, abusing, then exploiting women for over 10 years. The indictment is a systemic pattern of abuse, intimating violence and rape sexual encounters together with manipulation. Perhaps it is Diddy's turn, but it marks an important crossroads not only for him but for the entire entertainment industry, which often has been accused of turning a blind eye to various transgressions by powerful players in this industry. The charges created shock ripples through Hollywood. Celebrities and media personalities were also making some reactions to the tabloid news. The most vocal was Katt and many more. This fearless comedian insisted on letting out the darker sides of fame and power. His unfiltered reaction added a sharp edge to an already tense situation. But it wasn't about Diddy's alleged crimes alone. It was a moment that said something much deeper about the corruption in Hollywood's rotten underbelly, a world that Williams has long critiqued through his distinctive brand of comedy. Decades of work have created a public persona in Diddy that insists on speaking of unabashed achievement and power, with his image seeming almost beyond any criticism. So the information in the indictment lays bare a very different reality, where a man allegedly used his considerable wealth and influence to muffle victims and hide years of abuse. It has destroyed weapons, recordings of coerced meetings, and distressing amounts of personal belongings, unearthed FBI raids that hint at something more than celebrity bad behavior, a sign of a systematic predatory empire. So that's not all. The fate of Diddy is now hanging in the balance, and accountability in Hollywood is still in the back of the room. It leaves most of those concerned with this situation asking how it could go on for so long without anyone saying something about it. And for some, such as Katt, the explanation is that the entertainment business is just built to cover some of its leading figures, no matter what. Not all that unfamiliar with Williams' work, his retort to Diddy's claims has little shock value. He has long been in the habit of this kind of biting commentary at Hollywood's expense. He never let pass a chance to point out Hollywood's hypocrisy on this score. And once again, he says just what most of the disillusioned audience wants to hear in this latest scandal. While others have merely looked away or prepared glowing, timely statements, Williams has come out swinging at the jugular, attacking Diddy and the system that allows such alleged practices to perpetuate themselves. What makes his response compelling for Katt is that it falls within a larger criticism. It's not the acts of Diddy, but rather the whole construction of fame and power in Hollywood. From this particular angle of Williams, he sees Diddy's charges as a symptom of something much bigger that's been festering for years. And as always, he called attention to himself and asked why the world of entertainment locks behind bars some of its biggest stars from behind their actions. In fact, it has been Katt who's been leading the commentary since the unfolding case against Diddy. And although he is no impulsive comedian reacting to scandal, he certainly is a voice whose import calls for much bigger change in that oft-reluctant aspect of an industry that refuses to hold its own accountable. That puts Williams' role in the drama that follows beyond a sideline opinion and turns her into Hollywood's most vocal and critical voice regarding power, abuse, and justice. Katt history of calling out celebrities. At the same time, Katt built his comedic reputation by being unapologetically forthright, particularly regarding the darker side of celebrity culture. Unlike most Hollywood celebrities who avoid controversy, Williams has been able to constantly speak out against the industry's hypocrisy, especially its arcane ways of protecting high and mighty people against accountability. For as long as he's worked, Williams never hesitated to rip at Kevin Hart with some scorching one-liners and meanwhile exposed what he perceives to be manipulation, power plays, and corruption behind Hollywood's locked doors. This is one flavor of comedy, not just laughter but also social commentary, and it rings true in most people's lives, especially those disillusioned by the celebrity culture machine. For this reason, Williams has never been confined to the mainstream and positions himself more like a truth teller, even with the risk of personal or professional backlash. His fiery monologues often touch on topics other comedians might feel unsafe talking about, so both ardent supporters and fierce critics have filled his office. This history of name-calling and exposure of Hollywood's underbelly makes Williams's response to Diddy's 113 counts unsurprising, but no less powerful. Charges against Diddy seem part of a larger story about how fame and prosperity can be protective, even of the most blatant behavior. It is an indictment in Williams's eyes of how the entertainment industry favors profit over justice, with powerful figures unchecked for years for their misconduct. As comedian Katt Williams quips, Diddy's fight with the authorities is but one of the many sick power games in Hollywood. He has always pointed out how the powers that be embolden abusers, sway public opinion, and gag anyone who dares to ventilate their views. His criticisms are not vague attacks on particular individuals, but an attack on a culture of behavior. By comedy, Williams forces the audience to confront unpleasant truths about the entertainment world. And even though Williams never stopped debating the issues of brutality in his candor despite continuous criticisms, he never flinched. His criticism can be very sharp, but it comes from personal experience within the industry. Katt has seen the highs and lows of fame, and their understanding of the corrupting influence of power remains unique. So do how those who have power are protected by an invisible shield of influence and money. That attitude lends strength to his shots, especially at men like Diddy, whose publicly bottled success hides much darker realities, or at least so according to allegories. The silver lining is that what sets Katt Williams apart from many comedians is that while most comedians will keep mum and weigh in on scandals, he does not. Rather, he digs deeper to speak on matters with scathing humor laid bare unclogged by truth. Doing so, his style has proved to be a good following among the people who appreciate his willingness to take risks and speak out against injustices in the industry. So as Williams continues speaking and commenting on the scandal rolling out in Diddy's world, there speaks history to his bringing out the celebrities and the industry at large. He is no comedian who wakes up and thinks of a joke over scandal. He is an old-school fighter in the entertainment world who saw firsthand how fame corrupts and how the system often covers those responsible for such corruption. Once again, by calling Diddy to task by extension and Hollywood itself, Williams puts himself as the lead-to-beat critic of celebrity culture. To answer Diddy's charges in this regard, his response to Diddy's accusations is not just about one man falling down, it's about the much bigger system that enabled such behavior to mushroom unchallenged over the years. The commentary by Williams is a wake-up call for audiences. Fame and power may provide one with temporary shielding, but the truth does come out in the end. The allegations against Diddy. These charges against Sean Diddy Combs are stunning and deeply disturbing, and if true, represent a pattern of abuse and criminality that spans over a decade. Among the 113 counts are allegations related to sex trafficking and racketeering. Therefore, the range of allegations paints a very ugly picture of how Diddy allegedly organized his power and influence to exploit and harm countless women. The indictment, unsealed today by the FBI, charges Diddy with running a criminal enterprise through forced sexual acts, threats, and violence. Among the sick evidence seized in raids on properties owned by Diddy was proof of mangled AR-15 rifles, electronics with pornographic content, and over 1,000 bottles of personal lubricant, many enough to grease hundreds of coerced sexual encounters. The federal indictment describes Diddy as running an invincibly sophisticated scheme whereby he dominates and intimidates his victims by his staggering fortune, making it impossible for his victims to resist him. It claims this abuse went on for years, and so raises grave questions about how Hollywood's top players are insulated by their celebrity. Diddy, for so long, was the modern definition of success. Fundraising and business sense charges revealed that behind the golden mask of glamour, an abuse empire was reigning in another layer of glass. Prosecutors told the court exactly how Diddy allegedly threatened, coerced, and committed violence to force women into compromising situations or to have their victims silenced by intimidation. These charges, if true, speak to a particularly crafty manipulation operation that helped Diddy avoid real accountability for so long. Even at this stage, however, the charges of assault more shock-worthily charged are to Diddy's apparent violation, not of a series of incidents, but apparently much greater scale, systematic approach to abuse. Prosecutorial charge prosecutors say his conduct was criminal in nature and part of a calculated scheme to exploit and injure those so vulnerable for his own delight and sense of power. The FBI investigation of this case unearthed many instances of bribery, intimidation of witnesses, and also obstruction of justice. Based on these facts, the prosecution further submits that Diddy used his wealth and resources to conceal the commission of said offenses and their cover-up, having gone as far as paying off those who could speak against him and warning others of dares. It's odd and puts everything into question. Such activity could have existed for a long time without being stopped by such a tremendous scale of conspiracy. The trial continued, and Diddy's defense insisted that the accused was a casualty of overblown charges. For although he no doubt had his shortcomings as a human being, he was undoubtedly no common criminal. That assertion he made through his attorney, Mark Agnifilo, when he said, "Youthful debauchery, toxic relationships, narcotics use, not criminal activity." But as dark as that may sound, prosecutors describe Diddy as part of the conspiracy in the abuse, manipulation, and exploitation of the victim. And with all the allegations around Diddy, it has taken massive attention in this case. So moreover, with more bits and pieces, the case has somehow turned out to be a lightning rod, ushering power, abuse, and accountability in the entertainment world onto everyone's table. Hollywood has covered up some of its most powerful players in the past, and therefore, the system of silence and complicity allowed years of abuse to slide undetected. Katt Williams' initial reaction? Comedy meets controversy. Katt Williams is particularly known for his quick wit and fearless commentary. He did not disappoint with the performance he gave on the Diddy scandal. He was on the stage barely a week after the sealing of the indictment to give me a no-holds-barred take on the charges in question. As usual, using his signature comedic style, Williams had the perfect balance between humor and biting criticism over the absurdity of actions attributed to Diddy in questioning how Hollywood had permitted such actions for as long as it had. So Williams, his usual self, took the subject in the most comedic way with a moral depth. He made light of Diddy's 113 criminal charges on him, wondering what was the point of having all those cases on someone, and yet not being dealt a serious blow much earlier. So a crowd burst into laughter as Williams likened such actions by Diddy to something straight out of a crime thriller, thus too out of the ordinary even to be believed. So under all the jokes, though, lay a trenchant critique of the Hollywood machine's ability to look away when some of its most powerful figures are involved. His routine, though laughable, carried a pointed message. Williams lambasted the entertainment industry for not doing enough to expose and condemn the powers that be. In this case, Diddy's fame and wealth enabled him to get away with so much for far too long. The way that Williams framed it, the charges were against Diddy and, more importantly, against the system that enabled and supported such persons. Williams presented this recurring theme: not just individuals but systems themselves must be held accountable. So a portion of what Williams spoke to was the familiar use in public of power to manipulate those around one, and the comparisons he drew between it and other Hollywood scandals. His criticism wasn't only of Diddy, but much deeper into the industry and what, in his mind, is a fully entrenched culture of abuse and silence. This was not just another scandal for Williams. It was an indictment of something far bigger within the celebrity world. It has always been Katt Williams' gift to walk between the comedic and the serious critique. His reaction to Diddy's charges did not fail to be such an example. While the crowd laughed with him, his words undoubtedly spoke to a more serious matter than a typical tabloid affair. He spoke about what happens when the ones with the power also throw their weight in authority, using the heft of wealth as a shield against retribution. It was not the humor of Williams' response, but his unwillingness to beat around the bush that really made it so fascinating. Other celebrities may offer measured, politically correct responses, but not Williams, who came out swinging. He called out Diddy and the system that allowed such alleged behavior to go unchallenged for so long. His candidness struck a chord with fans and critics alike, reaffirming his position as a voice of truth in an industry often more concerned with appearances than justice. Now, Williams's reaction to the scandal was not only a major headliner, but also set forth an even greater debate on the role of comedy compared to society's more serious concerns. Whereas others continued to treat the hate crime charges leveled against Diddy as rumors, Williams took this as his cue to opine about Hollywood's culture of silence. In this sense, he continued what would prove to be his tradition: the use of comedy for not just entertainment purposes, but as a conduit for thought and change. Williams' criticism of the Hollywood elite caught Williams as nothing if not vocal in his criticism of the powerful, particularly concerning Hollywood's inner workings. His response to Diddy's accusations is consistent with his general tendency to speak out against elites who have enabled this culture of impunity. On the individual level, Williams's criticism is perceptive, but also veers at times toward system indictment, the protectors of the entertainment industry's richest figures because of their status, influence, and money. In this most recent case, Williams labels the Diddy scandal as a symptom of an even greater disease: the Hollywood system's lack of willingness to shut down its most dominant just even when their actions reach morally reprehensible and illegal levels. He has long contended that Hollywood values money and fame above justice, thus providing the coddling framework for people like Diddy to play by their own rulebook. Williams has a distinctive voice in cutting through the PR-perpetuated veneers of celebrities when someone makes heavy accusations against them. His brash, without apologies, straightforward approach to laying bare hypocrisy has greatly satisfied audiences who cry foul, frustrated by how nobility seems unanswerable to anyone else but themselves. Over the years, Williams has used his platform to highlight stark contrasts between how everyday people are treated and how celebrities are protected. He frequently compares the swift punishment of the common man against delays or total avoidance of justice for the elite. This criticism is especially valid in the Diddy case, whereby Williams argues that Diddy committed a long time ago crimes that went unprosecuted, hence the status and wealth were the reasons for this delay in getting justice. What distinguishes Williams in these conversations is his ability to infuse humor into cutting insights. His comedic storytelling allows him to speak about uncomfortable truths without losing listeners, and what could be serious critiques become easier to swallow. In the context of Diddy's accusations, Williams' use of humor serves as a vehicle for deeper reflection on how the entertainment industry speaks more to complicity in providing cover to problematic figures. Williams has also been vocal against the celebrity machine, which he also thinks silences the voices of its stars and those dissenting voices. This machine, Williams says, creates an atmosphere where both insiders and fans are silenced, with the most empowered people able to get away with atrocity. His rant is not against Diddy as a perpetrator of this ghastly affair, but against the system that enables such fetid practices. As the scandal about Diddy unravels, Williams' voice has always been clear. In an era where public figures are extremely careful never to court controversy, Williams' frank honestness has only made him more lovable, and in some ways, respected, frightened in others. Speaking truth to power, even when not particularly flattering, has made Williams' position as a cultural commentator not afraid to speak about some of the dirtiest undersides of fame. Williams has framed the case of Diddy in a large context of problems in Hollywood. As such, he nudges the conversation beyond one man and prods the audience to engage their focus on endemic problems within the entertainment industry at large. Social media erupts, fans and celebrities win. News broke when many charges became linked to the name of Diddy 113 times. Fans, celebrities, and the general public joined the fray on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok to turn the websites into hotbeds of debates on memes and comments over shock, disbelief, and outrage over such several charges, while others aren't surprised by those charges and brought back memories of past rumors and controversies involving Diddy. However, Katt Williams' post sparked the most chatter online. His scathing takedown was relatable and relevant, and people sent scores of clips of his stand-up routine during his dissection of the scandal. Although many praised Williams for speaking the truth, others condemned him for taking the whole thing to make a joke. Whatever the mixed bag of opinions, Katt Williams effectively amplified the voice that would keep pushing the issue through accountability in Hollywood. But even celebrities weighed in on the debate, but most oddly appeared guarded in their statements. Some came out with pro-Diddy statements, exercising reserve and cautioning people not to judge the situation yet and to see how it would play out in court. Others who had, in fact, quite vocally been part of making abuse and exploitation known issued their criticism. The split opinion over this issue merely reflected the broader social media discourse, with some defending Diddy and others wondering why he had not been held accountable earlier. The use of Diddy charges has just begun circulating and unraveling through different services owing to users sharing news stories, clips of video footage of the incident, and their opinions about the scandal. The ordinary citizen feels a lethal frustration over how the entertainment industry treats its cases against its cream of models. Most users compared Diddy's case with other sensational Hollywood scandals involving Harvey Weinstein and R. Kelly. The debate continued, then, to revolve around the abhorrent culture of silence and connivance within elite circles that allowed abuse to haunt us. Beyond shock value, the social media debates shifted towards more systemic issues. As professionals discussed this, the amateurs continued along the line of a greater cause of immunity and how power and influence may often buy silence or cover up. In such light, Katt Williams' words about the Hollywood power structure struck chords across. Many people forwarded his text and took it further. But for every shout-out demanding Diddy get his head, others are clamoring online to defend the latter. They'd proclaim all his philanthropic efforts and good being done through music as a reason to tread carefully in the accusations until the trial. Some even said that this has something to do with an even grander conspiracy against influential black men in entertainment. Those debates highlighted the polarized nature of Diddy's public image, and this case has reignited much of the long-standing discourses on race, power, and justice in America. Indeed, social media played an important role in making or marring the faint echo of voices similar to Katt Williams's, and also ensured an opportunity for public debate. Days passed, and thousands of articles, videos, and commentaries kept dotting the internet. And thus, conversation about Diddy's charges would not so easily fade away. As the cases continue developing in court, public opinion on this scandal will probably remain a front and center battleground through social media and how Hollywood and the rest of the world perceive it. Diddy's defense, public statements and legal strategy. With the crescendo of lawsuits concerning Diddy, his defense team has strategized a robust approach to counter such serious allegations. Recently, Diddy pleaded not guilty to federal charges accusing him of sex trafficking and racketeering as he faced the court on September 16, 2024. His lawyers, led by celebrity attorney Mark Agnifilo, have argued that while Diddy has had private problems in the past such as drug use and toxic relationships, nothing in the indictment points to the kinds of crimes he's been accused of. After the case in court, the defense could claim that the allegations, though serious, are almost sensationalized, and the public should not rush to judgment before legal action concludes. Agnifilo pointed out Diddy's years of philanthropy and contributions to the entertainment industry as attempting to paint a more nuanced portrait of the mogul than the one offered by federal prosecutors. In addition, the defense team has competed against this picture, showing Diddy to be an evil man and that no serious crime was committed against him, and he should be released on bail to be produced before the court. But federal prosecutors have portrayed him as a serial abuser who used his enormous wealth and clout to intimidate and manipulate his victims for years to keep them silent about the crimes he committed. Diddy orchestrated a scheme of abuse that included physical violence and psychological manipulation. The indictment says, creating a web of coercion that enabled him to engage in this conduct without reprisal. Prosecutors also indicted him in obstruction of justice, accusing him of paying out the witnesses and intimidating those who told him that they would testify. One of the darkest pieces of evidence for the prosecutors is the seizing of electronic devices that contain pictures and videos of sexual engagements, but through force. The devices were found along with other incriminatory materials, including defaced firearms, in Diddy's properties during an FBI raid. The prosecution considers that there has been a concerted effort to take women who have no power and use them for his satisfaction under the power and privilege mantle. As his lawyers fight to have him returned on bail, Prosecutors argue that he poses a flight risk and should not be allowed out of jail. The prosecutors supported their argument by referencing Diddy's great resources. They said he might easily skip the country or use the very influence at his disposal to further compromise justice if he were let out on bail. Their argument paid off. Diddy was ruled to be held without bail by the court. So the date for the trial approaches. Diddy's lawyers will most likely keep trying to undermine credibility in charges and portray the case as one of governmental overreach. So, however, all parties know that the evidence against him and the media frenzy for this case may be too huge for his defense. In any case, what is evident, however, is that this will be a very high-profile legal battle in recent history, and may well even reshape public opinion regarding one of the most iconic figures in the entertainment industry, Katt Williams and Diddy's tumultuous history. And the response from Katt Williams also looks well planted in their long and complicated history with each other. This couple has had a rocky on and off love affair, public and private spats rearing their ugly head for years. So Williams skewered Hollywood's elite for years, and Diddy was not exempted from that group. In his previous stand-ups and interviews, Williams has let fall several uncomfortable hints about experiences he's had with some of Hollywood's most influential figures and touched on the scope of the wrongdoing going on behind the scenes. While never directed specifically at Diddy, there have been moments when Williams seemed to suggest that a figure like Diddy is part of a problem in Hollywood. One somehow encompasses exploitation, control, and silence. Trenchant humor and an unvarnished style sometimes make it difficult to know where comedic hyperbole leaves off and any real accusation begins. But the concentrated criticisms commend his reaction to Diddy's charges as rising from a place of familiarity. Williams's attacks on Diddy and others appear to be based on the assumption that celebrity wealth and power insulate the entertainment elite from being held accountable for their illicit behavior. So much of that attack has been pitched in humor, but the weight of charges that Diddy faces may account for why Williams was so voluble about Hollywood's culture of silence. He always cautions of the dark side of fame, where the mighty folks abuse their place virtually, believing they are above accountancy. Perhaps this tense history can explain why Williams responded quickly and thoughtfully to news that Diddy had been indicted. For Williams, that was not just another celebrity scandal, it was a moment of vindication. An example of what he had been ranting about for years finally coming to light. Not the type of fellows who often blur lines between their personal and professional lives in public. One thinks Williams' continued criticism of Hollywood power structures makes his reaction to Diddy's charges more a response to a big issue brewing under the surface for some time. So beyond personal vendetta, his reaction to the Diddy scandal betrays an interest in probing the murkier side of fame. Whereas most in Hollywood would go along with trying to sidestep such scandal, Williams has long had a history of using public platforms to assail the gap between celebrity images and private actions, especially where the privileged are concerned. So this reaction to the indictment of Diddy is not over one celebrity who crossed a line, but, more importantly, over the complete system that allowed such circumstances to last as long as they did. The bigger picture, Hollywood's culture of silence. A fair critique of one man's out-of-control excesses, these charges also do something a hell of a lot sharper. Expose an overwhelming amount of long-standing Hollywood. For many decades, there has been criticism regarding Hollywood's penchant for protecting the powerful and letting perpetrators get away scot-free for their crimes. This case stokes such debates in the form of an uncomfortable dynamic. Diddy's indictment is a pointer to how wealth and influence can insulate someone who exploits his or her position of power and stays immune from further public scrutiny or legal consequences. It is the theme by which Katt Williams has declared his beliefs regarding the state of Hollywood and goes as far as the system that looks after the interest of the elite at the expense of those in whose interest they operate, especially women and minorities. The Diddy scandal, with its astonishing number of allegations spanning years of unchecked abuse, stands as a stark example of what happens when this form of silence continues. It leaves most victims silent for reasons of either threat of retaliation or blacklisting in their chosen profession, and the perpetrator largely unscathed. So the hashtag #MeToo movement has flagged many power players, But the Diddy case reminds us there is much more to do. As Katt Williams pointed out in his reaction, this isn't even about Diddy. This is a whole system that has protected and reinforced crime against women for far too long. And in that way, perhaps this is just another case that reminds everyone how money and fame can be manipulated using control and how the entertainment industry went along with it. More importantly, Hollywood culture defines silence in a manner far beyond sexual abuse. Instead, it also involves financial malpractice, manipulation, and exploitation of power in more than one way. For decades, famous celebrities with stature have used their statures to successfully avoid public accountability. Many examples reflect this, with the Diddy case representing just one of many similar responses showing hesitation and delay from the industries involved. With mounting evidence against him, it now seemed that few in Hollywood were coming forward to speak about Diddy, implying that people fear crossing powerful individuals. The entertainment industry is gravitating more toward the ability to protect its most influential leaders. This type of case forced accountability through the measure of a louder conversation over Diddy is no longer satisfied with the status quo, as more and more information leaks out about Diddy, putting an increasing strain on Hollywood to reform its practices into the culture of protectionism. The Diddy scandal, shocking as it is, happens to represent, sadly, the larger pattern of a behavior hitherto tolerated as existing in the shadows for too long. Indeed, what seems to grab the voice of absolute disbelief within and without Hollywood walls is in Katt Williams and the venomous diatribe along the lines of Diddy's accusations. Hollywood needs to demand not just transparency and accountability, but real change over their handling and the structures that allow such abuses to continue thriving. Perhaps it is the new tipping point in efforts to dismantle the culture of silence that is so deeply entrenched in Hollywood as the court case unfolds. Impact on both careers. What's at stake? The consequences it has brought to Diddy and how Katt Williams reacted to the statement are crucial for each man's career. To Diddy, the 113 charges mean that it is a judicial scrap and a public relations nightmare. His legacy is now widely condemned as a mogul, music entrepreneur, and recording star that once successful and influential career may be damaged forever. All these allegations nullify most churchgoers moving away from Diddy. Perhaps the gigantic logo deals and other business dealings will be tackled severely. Even if he technically is at law to sink, the weight of the accusations and public outcry may forever seal his reputation. What was once an unassailable empire stands at the precipice of an existential crisis, a very slight possibility that years of questionable behavior may jeopardize decades of hard work. But with that frank answer, Katt Williams has much to gain. Arguably the comedian who has made a reputation for delivering his very honest comments straight-faced to myriad audiences. So Williams' bold denunciation of Diddy and Hollywood's moguls fits well within his long-standing persona as an industry outsider with balls willing to speak the uncomfortable truth. While Williams had his share of highs and lows regarding this scandal, his reaction catapults him back into the fray, becoming another scathing voice for what many predict will be a coming reckoning for the entertainment universe. His involvement may cement him as a man who is not afraid to tell the truth to power, no matter how uncomfortable it may make the creative constituency. It's a high-wire act for both parties in very different ways. Diddy is defending reputation and possibly freedom, while Williams may be using this opportunity to settle a fragile ego into the role of the boldest voice in comedy. But that contrast in the career's threat speaks to a marginally different place these two men occupy in the Hollywood ecosystem. Diddy, the ex-kingpin fighting to preserve his empire, and Williams as the fearless critic sitting in judgment of the entire system, not afraid at all to condemn the system that let him get away. The future of Hollywood post-scandal. The celebrity scandal Diddy is not just another opening drama case. This point does change the fate of Hollywood, because the people powerful in the industry, like Diddy's piece, thinks publicly and legally about the situation. So the entertainment industries would then start questioning this long-accustomed silence and complicity. What Katt Williams said bluntly is what demand is: accountability and transparency. Condemnation comes with recent calls for change in the treatment meted out by industry to claims of abuses and exploitation. Forward-looking, This case may usher in legal precedents on how Hollywood would treat its elite in light of serious accusations. Those days of sheltering celebrities and starlets from their own acts of loutish or even criminal behavior may finally be over. Public unwillingness to take excuses and cover-ups lying down would be a welcome change, though. Artists, fans, and industry insiders are calling for far more than paltry steps toward balancing the systemic imbalances that feed abusive behavior. Perhaps an exceedingly bold commentary, Williams is at the forefront of this movement by making his own soapbox and demanding from Hollywood that it take on its darker side. For Diddy, the stakes have never been higher. A career based on this much chutzpah and smart business sense hangs by a thread. How well he can negotiate similar impenetrable challenges in legality and public relations will determine the rest of his life in this industry. And even if he gets acquitted, these charges will forever besmirch his reputation. This scandal may be how Hollywood will finally change itself in a long-awaited manner, and also bring to justice the most powerful figures for the acts they perform. In this brave new world, Katt Williams may emerge not as an act of comedy, but as a messenger of truth, unable to cast stones against the rod of Hollywood's glittering paint. When the dust settles, one will see that this case has had a vital impact, forcing a closer look inside the workings of the industry and challenging long-held thinking about fame, power, and justice.